Wally, you'll appreciate this. I tried this summer to test the hypothesis between whiteboard and no whiteboard. So I started using the whiteboard a little bit. And I have to say, I'm 100% completely stopping that. It is so terrible on so many levels that I find the whiteboard is almost it is getting in the way is what I found, going back and trying to do it the old fashioned way, from where I've gone to getting rid of the whiteboard, and just thought I'd share that anecdote. That you'd appreciate the fact that it wasn't just something I tested around with and moved away, but I actually wanted to go back and see how it worked.
Craig, I've just earmarked that 1 hour 30-second mark because I haven't used a whiteboard for 50 to 20 years. Because every time I did, I had to stop the drill, go over it again. Not necessarily the whiteboard, but I didn't get just on with it. So I said, skip the whiteboard. Let's just point, get going. And it works. And I'm going to edit this part of it. For you to express yourself that strongly about it, trying it again, because when I do high performance coach evaluations, I keep track of the time at the whiteboard. And many are guilty of being at it, 5 minutes, which is quite long.
If you have that level of complexity, you need to shrink it down and build up to that. Like, start simple and you can build up to that complexity, but just immediately going there's so many issues with that.
So I'm wondering if challenging a high performance coach to try not using a whiteboard, because they'll become more aware of the learner's capacity and may change the way they coach, because we're conditioned to whiteboards. I know, Craig, I'll share this story. Mentoring high performance coaches, I had 9 under my umbrella with one team, and we observed, 3 coaches would observe the coaching on the bench from behind the bench in terms of communication, use of the whiteboard on the bench. We had the other coaches watching the game and evaluating players. And there was a point where all 3 coaches, including the head coaches, had a whiteboard and were talking to a player while the game was on. So they weren't in tune with the now of the game, the spontaneity of it, the reinforcement of the good things going on. And that really startled me. But as a provincial association, that was the modality of the time. Whiteboard, use the whiteboard, drill explanation, make sure it's clear. And I think we've gotten over conditioned to that. And I think getting away from that is something to at least experiment with if you haven't tried it before, because I'll never go back. I know right now, Tom, your practices, they're multi-detailed. The best part of them is the video. I see the drill. I can look at the diagram. But I've received Kyle Lundvig's practices. There is no diagram. There's no details. There's a title. And I know in Kyle's mind, he knows what he's going to run. He's done those drills over a period of time. And fortunately, he's going to be running most of the ice times of that age group. But he's into that kind of a mode where I've never seen him use a whiteboard. He sees the game, talks the game, visualizes it in his mind, and his players, I think, pick up on that fact where they're not looking at X's and O's and thinking X's and O's. So any more to add to that, Craig? And it seems chaotic. It doesn't seem to make sense, but that's the nature of the beast.
Peter's had his hand up for quite a while.
Yeah, we got some hands raised.
Okay, Peter, go ahead.
I put my hand up, so.
Yeah, no, I saw you were first, but mine's gonna be real short. Not that yours won't be. So Wally, I've done what you're talking about, and Greg, what you're talking about. No whiteboard. And the first time you do that, the sheer terror on the second, third kid in line, who immediately becomes the 11th and 12th kid in line as they shuffle back because they have no idea what's going on. So Wally, what you said about the ability to point as it's going, because there is that visual learner. There is that kid that learns better visually and needs to see it happen and is somewhat scared to death the first time you don't show them something in sense of a whiteboard, but they can learn from seeing the drill happen. And you see them. The great thing about that is you see them now actually talking to the kid in front or behind them, obviously trying to get some explanation of what the heck is going on. But I think, Wally, the fact that, you do make the time to point, direct in that sense, you're helping that visual learner, because that kid can't be forgotten either. So I think it's a blend of both, and I think it's great.
Yeah, what I do is I have kind of a process. And the first time, first of all, I don't have a whiteboard on the glass and turn my back. I just have a small, and the first time I show something, I show it on the whiteboard so people know where they stand, where the pucks go, and take about 1 minute to explain everything. And I give it a name. So now when they hear that name, they know, what it's all about. And Terry Johnson always said, the first time you do a drill, it's just for the players to learn the drill. Where do I go? What do I do? What's the sequence? The second time you start, maybe making some corrections, this kind of stuff. Third time, they should all know it. And what I also do is the first time I'll use whistles, and then I'll call them all in and I'll say, okay, now you can see when the last player shoots as well as I can. I want you starting on your own. And you'll see some of my practices, there's absolutely no whistles. And it all depends what stage they are in learning that process. And some things you do need whistles. I play games that they change on the go, or they change on the whistle, so you have to have the whistle. But I think the first time you really need the players have to know where they go, where the puck goes, and have a kind of an idea how it goes. And that's my belief. And I think if you're going to do it without a whiteboard, you better be very succinct in how you explain things. Because I know I've listened to people describing things and I have no idea at the end of it what they just told the players to do. So you have to be really good if you're not going to use a whiteboard at all.
I feel like it challenges you in a very good way. When you start doing it, you figure out where you are terrible at providing an explanation and making you into that. So I spot on, Tom.
Yeah, I don't think like Tim always says, there's not a always do or never do. You find that if it's needed there a little and then get away from it. The more the players, like you say, Greg, the more the players are engaged. Like I watch the Flames, one of the only times the pros tend to use whistles all the time. And I watched them do this. One group did this one drill, a 2-on-1, and they were going the whistles. And then the next ice time, another coach did the same drill, and it was started by the defenseman. And when the play ended at one end, then the group that should go there went. So it wasn't, it all depended on how the play went. And the next coach just left it up to the defenseman to watch and see when the play's over. Then they started with a pass to a forward who did some stuff and did a 2-on-1 back. And, like you say, you get the players more engaged then. And, it's more their drill than, being a robot kind of a thing. And that allows you to coach instead of be a traffic cop.
Exactly. You can now actually coach. You can be in the back of the line. You're not just standing over in the corner with a whistle or actually having to run it. That's one of the bigger things as well. I just think there's so many benefits to getting rid of the whistles and whiteboards as much as we can. Whiteboard's completely out. Whistles, I still get to figure out how to completely get rid of them. But for the most part, find ways to minimize those two, at least if they're, needed time.
And sometimes I use the duck call too, so that's always things.
Ooh, I like that.
I want to mention the word intervention. When coaches are running a drill and I'm observing and I see something going on that needs to be addressed because the purpose of the drill isn't being accomplished, that to me is sort of the breaking point of intervention. Good coaches will intervene and make the point on that drill because the purpose of it isn't being accomplished. And I saw that last year with one of our U18 AA coaches. It was just excellently well timed. He just demanded more paying attention and being aware of the tactical detail of the purpose of the drill, and the drill went really well. And I know, Tom, we've talked about it many times where they couldn't do this drill and we stopped them once and did stationary passing so they get the feel of it. They went back to the drill and it was smooth. So I think there's an intervention of knowing when to use your whistles, especially in the case of a drill. I think in terms of safety, it's the first priority. You've got players skating in opposite direction and going to collide, you better blow the whistle. And I've seen that happen at a national team level. So it's, I think you have to have the whistle there, but when to use it, my question is what you're doing accomplishing a purpose? The purpose? Do you know the purpose of what you're doing, the why of your drill? Do they have the tactical skills to, in fact, do that drill? Or do you have to intervene and have them work on those skills a little bit more and get back to it? Or maybe add that skill element into a drill in itself on a regular basis so they get better at it and can do the drill that'll show up in the game. So it's an art, and one of my friends who's written a book on leadership, the art of coaching is doing the right stuff, the right amount, the right time. And that's